Hi everyone, I'm Adrian. Yes, I'm the founder and CEO at Spielworks. I've been a gamer all my life, and actually back in 2006, no, even before that, maybe 2004. So I was studying mathematics and computer science. I was living with a friend, and we would play games all the time, and we would think like, oh my God, how cool would it be if we could use the gold that we farm in Diablo 2 back then, some of you will remember, and use that and flip it into credits and buy a better engine in this car racing game that we were playing as well, right? And we're like, oh, that would be so cool, but how would you do that? I mean, it's basically impossible to build games that have a quality grade of like Diablo 2, or back then the racing game was Nice 2, and have them interconnect, and who would do that? And it's just crazy. And then fast forward 15 years when I was blockchain already, and we were doing a lot of consulting work, and we were like talking about Web3 gaming, blockchain gaming in 2018, I was like, oh my God, this is really what we can do, right? Now we can do what I had in mind back then, or what we had in mind back then in 2004. So yeah, now we're talking about mass potential of NFTs for the gaming industry. So I want to go into a little bit about like what we find fascinating about NFTs in the context of gaming, and like what NFTs can be in gaming beyond just being objects. About myself and about Spielworks, we're Berlin-based. We founded ourselves in 2018. We are game development, publishing, and distribution company. We have a platform that's called Wombat. OnePlay is a sister product of this. That's a Web3 game distribution platform. We actually focus on connecting users with gamers with games. It's basically both Web 2 and Web 3 games. We add a layer of Web 3 on top of traditional games as well. This allows us to onboard literally millions of people from Web 2 into Web 3. So to date, we've onboarded around 3.8 million users on the platform. Because we have that, we also started developing our own games because we can successfully push games to a large audience, right? So we developed Wombat Dungeon Master. We've had that out for about a year and a half. It's a top 10 game globally. If you look at something like Dap Raider in terms of on-chain activity, right? We're basically building a metaverse version of that, so that people can actually run their own dungeons. It's a very simple game. It has a very simple game mechanics, but people love that. People love simple things, right? You basically stake NFTs, you press a button every once in a while, you get a reward, right? And just depending on like the game mechanics and which items you wear and how you play the game, your rewards are more or less. We also have a booth here, a large booth right next to the food area, so you can find us upstairs in like the big room. And we're running a side event tonight. It's a Web3 gaming happy hour, I think it's called, right? It's also on the list of side events. So please meet us there, meet us at the booth. We got a lot of merch as well, so if you want, we can hand some stuff out later. But yeah, so that's us, and that's myself. Yeah, I co-founded, Sven's sitting there, he's my co-founder, in 2018. So, like some people are still kind of criticizing NFTs in games, or NFTs in general, but we focus on NFTs in games, right? And the question really is like, why would you not want NFTs in games, right? And if you compare that to the physical world, it's actually crazy that we've gotten really used to virtual items as they have been without Web3, because in the traditional world, if you wanted to play, in the physical world, if you wanted to play a game, if you wanted to play, I used to play Magic the Gathering, right, trading card games. If you wanted to play that, you bought cards, they were yours. That was totally natural, they're yours. You can do whatever you want with them, right? You can use them as a coaster, you can like rip them apart, you can trade, sell them, you can do whatever you want, right? If you're playing tennis, you buy a tennis racket, it's yours. You can do whatever you want with it, right? But moving into the digital world, we don't own things anymore, right? And it's crazy that you can't do all that you want with things that you own in traditional games, in video games, right? So that's why I put, I don't know its English name actually. In German, it's Anton, right? But in Pokemon, if you play the Pokemon game, Pokemon Go, right, you might have a Pokemon, but it's not yours. You can't do anything with it outside of the game. So obviously, that's what we're fixing with NFTs, not just us, but everyone. So basically, we're bringing, like NFTs bring back the characteristics of items that we had in the physical world. We're basically just bringing that into the digital world. And just, I mean, you all know that, right? Because you're at a blockchain conference, that kind of comes without saying. You can own them, trade them, pass them on to somebody, transfer them, gift them. You can destroy them, you can burn them, you can lend and borrow them, right? So there's a lot of things that you can do with these things now that they're NFTs. That's just for later, right? And now, when we think about NFTs in games, we typically think about game items, right? Weapons, mostly weapons. I don't know why, but the most common notion of an NFT in a game is always you have an axe, right? So or a gun, right? That's kind of the most common notion. But we obviously also have consumables, which can also be NFTs, right? So you basically have a potion, you consume this, you get something, you get health back, whatever. But NFTs can be much more, right? Obviously, you've seen land in like the sandbox, right? Like real estate in general. They can be characters that can level up, right? So they don't have to be static. They can be dynamic, right? So they can evolve over time, like Pokemons actually, right? But they can also be subscriptions, like season passes, right? That could be an NFT. That's what we do in Dungeon Master as well. Our season passes are NFTs. In Dungeon Master, also, the belonging to a clan, if you want to join a clan, we have clan membership NFTs, right? So we model that with NFTs. And that has some problems, but it works amazingly well or surprisingly well for kind of the first time anyone has done that. We also have things like packs. That's also something that's very, very cool in the physical world, right? That obviously has been employed in like loot boxes and stuff. But loot boxes can also be NFTs, right? So you can have NFTs which contain other NFTs. And then, so you could have an NFT that's basically a booster display box, right? And this box contains boosters, and these boosters contain cards, right? And that can all be modeled with NFTs. So that's really amazing. And what's really cool is that each of these items, obviously, each of these steps in the cascade maps the characteristics of NFTs. So you can trade them, you can burn them, you can do whatever you want with them at each stage of this process, right? You do that with the box, you can do that with the pack, you can do that with the individual card. And what you can also do, and that's also something that we tried, is that if you open the box with booster packs, you not only get the 12 booster packs that are inside, you also get an empty box, and you also get the plastic wrapping. Both are NFTs as well. And who knows what we're going to do with them, right? People ask us, so what will I be able to do that with that plastic wrapper? We say, we don't know yet. But we might come up with something cool, right? So it's kind of a future option, and that's what we like as creators, but gamers really like that as well, right? Because it's theirs. Okay, but NFTs can do even more. Crazy, right? So we already had so many things that can be done with NFTs, but they can do even more. And one of my favorite examples is actually a dynamic type of NFT. We haven't done that yet. We will do it eventually, but what we want is an NFT that basically changes its shape, its form, its characteristics based on things that have happened to the NFT, not necessarily within the game, but also outside the game, because by nature, NFTs offer interoperability, right? And interoperability doesn't have to be, oh, I'm using that gun in the other game. It's not necessarily just, I'm using that weapon from Fortnite and CSGO, right? It can be, it's interoperable with an NFT marketplace. So one of the ideas that we have is basically having a seed, right? And starts with a seed. And then the more often this NFT gets traded, the more it grows into a tree, right? And it gains more branches, and it gains more leaves, and maybe you have apples. And maybe at some point you can plant this tree in your game that's maybe something like Stardew Valley, right? And you have it in your garden, and then you can harvest the apples, right? So, but the evolution of this NFT would not happen within the game. It would happen outside of the game by trading it. What's really cool about this is kind of a Schrödinger's NFT, because the thing that you're buying is not the thing that you're getting, right? So the moment you actually buy the tree NFT, it has one more branch, right? So you could never really know what you're getting, because this might depend on the price that you traded for, right? So that's something that's really cool. So that way, actually, NFTs become mini games all by themselves, right? And this is something that gamers absolutely love, right? As soon as they understand it, and as soon as it's, well, we've had it before, as soon as it's usable, they will absolutely love that. So this really is like, has an enormous amount of power for mass market gaming as well. Another thing which doesn't get discussed very much, it also depends a lot on the technology that you're using, is NFT blending, right? So we have a lot of recipes where you can blend NFTs. So that means that's also running outside of the game, right? Anyone can set up these kinds of blends because NFTs are permissionless, right? Anyone can say, oh, I'm using this NFT from this game as an ingredient, and now you can basically blend that with something else. So in our examples, for instance, you can blend 2 level 1 items into, or 4 level 1 items into 1 level 2 item, right? And so that way you can upgrade stuff. But that goes also cross-game, that works cross-collection, right? So it's even more gamification for NFTs. So our gamers, we have about 12,000 daily active players on the game, right? So the top 10 game in the blockchain space, in the traditional space, that might be small. But these people spend enormous amounts of time, not in the game front end, but on looking at NFTs on the marketplace, finding the right ingredients for the blends, blending them into the next version, blending that into the next. We have huge trees of blending rules where people can spend like literally hours and hours just finding the right ingredients and blending, right? So this is a game all by itself, right? And that's what's really cool about NFTs. That's actually it already, right? That's our ideas of how actually NFTs can move into a broader aspect of gaming, right? They're not limited to the game in which they have been issued. They're not just this thing that I own. They can be so much more, right? So if you want to talk, if you're on a game, or you're looking to play games, or whatever, you're just interested in games and NFTs and stuff, come visit us at our booth, right? We'll be around for the rest of the day and tomorrow. And yeah, if you want a ball, we have cool little orange stress balls. There's one, awesome. Olga will be handing out more at the door. But obviously, you're also welcome to stay here. Or maybe, Olga, you can throw some here if you want them. Thanks.